Orlaith Minogue is a senior conflict and humanitarian advocacy advisor at Save the Children. She joins us from London to discuss this in more detail. Thank you so much for your time. A very concerning situation on so many levels in Afghanistan at the moment. How is this rising cost of food going to directly impact children, and how soon are they going to feel that impact?
Children are already feeling the impact of the hunger crisis inside Afghanistan. Prior to the escalation in recent weeks, more than 5.5 million Afghan children were projected to face crisis levels of hunger in the second half of this year. That was as a result of the impacts of COVID-19, the drought in the country, as well as the conflict ongoing. Now, with the escalation and with disruption to humanitarian aid, we're really concerned that that number is going to rise. So it's quite a dire situation, and it's already being felt and is going in the wrong direction.
Ola, what are the other concerns that your organization now has, considering we're seeing a change in leadership in the country and very much a country in flux at the moment?
At the moment, the vast majority of humanitarian aid services are suspended within Afghanistan. For Save the Children, our main concern is for the safety and security of our staff, as well as for the people that we're working with. And so while we usually have a very large program in Afghanistan, last year alone we reached 1.6 million people in Afghanistan with our services. At the moment, our staff are grounded. They're not out there providing the support that we know people so desperately need. We are committed to staying and delivering and making sure we can resume that aid as quickly as possible. But the situation right now doesn't allow for it. So given the complex crisis that children are facing inside the country, this is a huge concern. As I mentioned, the impacts of COVID, climate change in the country, the now rising food prices, this is a really desperate situation. We spoke to more than 600 newly displaced families in Kabul earlier this month, and every single family spoke about having to go into debt simply to buy food. Some mentioned selling their possessions, others mentioned cutting back on meals for them and their children, and even more talked about sending children out to work in order to be able to afford basic meals. So we're hugely concerned about that situation. And now as prices hike on food, you mentioned our staff have reported prices rising on basic goods such as flour and oil, hikes as much as 63% over the last month. And now with disruptions to imports and as I say, the lack of aid, that combined could mean that these prices could hike even further as availability of goods is reduced inside the country. It's
a really frightening picture that you're painting at the moment. We've been discussing so much about the terror threats in the country and safety and security, and it's easy to forget that there are so many more issues that people are facing just with regards to getting basic goods and food. What does the international community need to do here to help people in Afghanistan, especially those who are most vulnerable?
I think there's a lot that the international community needs to do in this initial period. As you mentioned, all eyes are on Kabul airport and witnessing the devastation that unfortunately took place yesterday and has been taking place over the last week and more. But what we're saying is there was a pre-existing crisis within Afghanistan that already was not receiving the amount of international attention and response that it needed in terms of funding, in terms of support for services, and really long-term solutions to make sure that children inside the country can grow up in safety as they deserve to do. Children in Afghanistan have known nothing but war in their lifetime, and what they need now is peace and stability in order to be able to have, to reach their potential and to have a normal life. So the international community needs to continue to prioritize the events in Afghanistan, and that will to prioritize children in Afghanistan beyond the events of the coming days and weeks. This is a long-standing crisis that needs a coordinated and coherent response from the international community, really making sure that all of these issues that are on the table, these combined factors that are leading to a complex crisis inside the country, are adequately dealt with. That's going to require political will, it's going to require funding, and crucially, we really need to get humanitarian services back up and running inside the country as soon as possible.
Yeah, a mammoth effort needed from all parties concerned. Orlaith Minogue, live to us from London. Appreciate your time.